are these people?
This is all the Epstein stuff. And again, I'm just going to show some headlines here from a few articles that I thought were really important and breeze through them. Then we'll get to lightning round. But this was actually posted into Dissent in Bloom's Substack chat among her subscribers, and I started reading it. I'm like, this is actually pretty good stuff. From a smaller writer that you probably have never heard of called CackleMcShackles, who writes Candace's Substack. Very cute. All right. We already had proof about Epstein. The government knew, the courts helped, and then Congress walked out. Reminding people that Democrats could have been stopping all of this the entire time. Democrats could have been filibustering. Democrats could have been having press conferences. Democrats could have been doing a lot of things. But what they've done is willful inaction by federal agencies that enable the rape, trafficking, and abuse of vulnerable girls and women. All right. The timing of
I wonder why.
This is the other thing. Now, Doe 1 et al. Versus United States, which is a case filed under Federal Tort Claims Act, okay, by survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network. I bet you never even heard of this. The lawsuit alleges that the FBI and Justice Department had years of credible evidence, victim reports, and internal intelligence confirming Epstein's operation, yet they deliberately failed to act. It's not a negligence claim. It's an accusation of willful inaction. All right. But what's really weird is suddenly the court allowed this case to be transferred to Florida, the same jurisdiction that historically protected Epstein and allowed him that sweetheart deal that allowed him to go home at night or to go back to his jail cell at night and go home and work during the day. She says the timing of this venue transfer and procedural reset aligns almost too perfectly with a parallel government narrative shift. In the last few months, Trump's allies and media outlets have been working overtime to pretend there's no Epstein client list, that Trump's name was never involved, and that the public should just move on. Meanwhile, staged Epstein cell footage was released to prove, quote unquote, that he died by suicide, even though the official reports make no coherent sense, and the guards involved, who are all dead now, never faced real accountability. While the court maneuvered to bury this live lawsuit in Southern District of Florida, federal propagandists were manufacturing doubt and distraction. The message was clear. Forget it all. Again. It's kind of like what they tell victims of sexual assault, right? Just act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But what they don't want anyone noticing is that the case was about to reach the point of discovery. If that happened, the plaintiffs could have legally forced the release of FBI documents detailing who in government helped Epstein, like Alexander Acosta, who protected him, like Pam Bondi, who blocked prosecution, and who stood to gain. That's what the venue manipulation was meant to prevent. This case is not about Epstein alone. It's about the infrastructure that shielded him. That includes agents, prosecutors, judges, and politicians. Discovery would have peeled back the curtain on just how much that system is bought, blackmailed, and or complicit. This is a really good article. All right, and it's somewhat long. Why was it moved to Florida? Again, because they were about to get discovery. Because the government manipulated venue using a stale legal tactic to create a delay, kick that down the road, and suppress public scrutiny. And now they have until August 25th to supply more documents to the new court. How about that? All right. The court, this is crazy, right? Justice Department filed a motion to dismiss, arguing improper venue because they claim that D.C. wasn't the proper location because the events in question happened in Florida or New York, not D.C., and that the plaintiffs lived elsewhere. So how could it be federal? On June 16th, the judge actually granted in part and held in abeyance the Justice Department's motion and gave the plaintiffs a choice: dismiss it without prejudice or transfer it to SDNY, Southern District of New York, who they don't want to send it to because they're anti-Trump, or Southern District of Florida, who've been very pro-Trump. On June 30th, they chose to transfer it to Florida. Case closed in D.C. Hey, how about that? Reopened in Southern District of Florida with a new starting case date. And again, what that does is kicks the can down the road. And this lays out a timeline, specifically in real time, of what happened. So on July 25th, the federal government again filed a request to delay their response to the Second amended complaint. The judge granted it. The Justice Department now has until August 25th to respond, a key stall tactic to avoid entering discovery, which gives more time to coordinate media narratives and political distraction campaigns. And remember, what they also kicked down the road until September is the Luigi trial. That also is going to be a distraction when it comes to the courts and to court records and court reporters. On August 25th, the DOJ must respond to the complainant by this date. If no further delay is granted, which we expect it will, this is the moment that the government either tries to dismiss the case again or is forced into discovery. What they fear are depositions of FBI agents, unsealed records of who protected Epstein, subpoenas of Justice Department internal communications, names buried inside non-prosecution deals, and potential exposure of intelligence agency involvement, which we know they were all involved. They used venue manipulation as a legal crowbar to pry the case out of D.C., where it would be visible, documentable, and politically explosive, and shoved it into Florida, where sealed records, local corruption, and media blackout will bury it. They did the same with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, CCOT deportation lawsuits, and other immigration trafficking cases. This is a really good article. Again, I'm going to link this in the description. I encourage everyone to go back and read the entire thing. But that's fucking crazy. And then we have our friend Michel de Cryptadamus. Now, he also published an explosive article. He doesn't publish much. But Michel published this thing about Epstein and crypto. And all the different people who Epstein was involved with. All right. But you can and should view the original thread's abundance of source references, right? It seemed worth revisiting and slightly updating the information now that Epstein has become such a hot topic again. Right? This post owes heavy debt to some incredible research on touch points between Epstein and various figures in the cryptoverse done by NFT Ethics, one of the literally less than 10 participants in the crypto markets whom Michel doesn't regard as fundamentally evil human being. So you've got Lutnick is involved.
Howard Nutlick.
Right? He was Epstein's neighbor. It's been less widely reported that Lutnick bought a house from Epstein in a transaction some sources have described as bizarre, and it seems to have been pretty much missed by entirely by the American media establishment. All right. That Howard Lutnick manages somewhere north of $100 billion, or roughly 1/5 of the military budget of the U.S. for Tether, the central bank of the cryptocurrency economy and the favored financial services provider of criminals, terrorists, and the rogue nuclear states the world over. Justin, son of Tron as well. So again, so that's Lutnick. Then you've got the creepy pedo, allegedly, not so alleged, Brock Pierce. Puerto Rican mogul. I wrote a lot about Brock Pierce, incredibly sordid history and deep connections to things like cryptocurrency, Tether, and the Israeli government last year in his catalog of New York City Mayor Eric Adams' crypto grifting. He mentioned Pierce's connections to Epstein in passing in that post, but there's a bit more to it than the fact that Epstein invited Pierce to speak at the Mindshift conference that Epstein organized in an attempt to rehabilitate his image after the first round of convictions for what we will delicately refer to as the inappropriate touching of minors or sex trafficking of minors. Apparently, Pierce's invitation to speak at Epstein's conference was delivered by none other than Al Sekel, the long-term partner of a woman named Isabel Maxwell. Isabel Maxwell just so happens to be the sister of a woman named, wait for it, Ghislaine Maxwell. Yes, she also is notorious for fucking Bill Gates. Isabel and Ghislaine's father was a man named Robert Maxwell, a notorious UK fraudster who, to quote Wikipedia, quote, had known links to the British Secret Intelligence Service MI6, to the Soviet KGB, and to the Israeli Intelligence Service Mossad, unquote. I'm not going to comment on this further. I'm not going to comment on this further other than to say, at times I wonder if people are over-indexing the third and under-indexing on the second, especially considering that, according to the Dossier Center, Epstein had proposed a BRICS cryptocurrency as a member of the FSB as early as 2015. Huh. That's interesting. All right. Sure. Now, again, actually, I take that back. I'd also like to point out that in my piece on Brock Pierce and Eric Adams, I called out Jerusalem Post writer and editor Zvika Klein for engaging what to me appeared to be blatant reputation laundering for Brock Pierce, as well before this kind of thing started coming out, as the Qatargate scandal started to rock the Netanyahu regime. Right?
Right.
And while I'm here, why don't I just mention that plenty of people I've talked to refer to Brock Pierce as the gay Epstein. Huh. But he's married. Then you've got Peter Thiel, discussed his relationship with Epstein publicly on numerous occasions. For a long time, Michel was more or less ready to believe what was the pretty obvious subtext of Thiel's stuttering attempts on explaining himself. Epstein was world-class at helping rich people avoid taxes, and Peter Thiel really hates paying taxes. I did, however, take note of the fact that Thiel allegedly started making large investment in the crypto space around the same year that he allegedly first met Jeffrey Epstein. However, new information was uncovered by the New York Fuck You Times a few weeks ago about Thiel and Epstein's financial entanglements. It turns out Epstein was an investor in Valar Ventures, one of the firms associated with Thiel's adventures in tokenized late-stage capitalism, and one that has done some investing in the crypto space. Again, what a surprise. It's worth mentioning that Thiel is a major backer of Rumble, where we're live right now, or at least he was, according to Chris Pavlovsky. He's had nothing to do with Rumble since 2021, since the SPAC was closed.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to.
Nothing to see here.
He can go through his intermediary, Vice President J.D. Vance. He doesn't need to talk to Rumble directly. And I don't know if he's a investor of, Class B or other stock. But again, Chris claims that he liquidated all of his Rumble stock. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. But he was a major backer of Rumble.
How convenient.
Other Rumble backers include luminaries like Vivek Fuck You Ramaswamy, JD Vice President Fuck the Couch Vance, Howard Nutlick, whose firm Cantor Fitzgerald has been at times the largest holder and or custodian of Rumble's shares, and wait for it, Tether, which made an enormous $775 million investment in Rumble relatively recently. In December, by the way, we reported on that on this show. Don't know too many others that fucking did. It should therefore surprise no one that Rumble recently announced it'll allow its users to send money to each other with, wait for it, Tether's USDT tokens. I'm sure all those Rumble USDT transactions will be vetted to prevent abuses by Russian oligarchs and Chinese organized crime groups just as carefully as the rest of Tether's USDT transactions. Right?
Have a good time with your Bitcoin, your crypto, and everything else that you're playing with.
Other Rumble shareholders have included people like America's FBI Director Kash Patel, who needed somewhere to park all the money he got paid for hosting a podcast for the Epoch Times prior to that company being revealed as a massive crypto money laundering operation for a Chinese cult called Falun Gong. And of course, our DNI Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, Falun Gong's fucking crazy. Holy shit. Anyway, continue.
Shen Yu, right? They pump their propaganda through that fucking dance thing. All right, we get the flyers in our door like here.
Tai Chi, yeah.
Right? And of course, Tulsi Gabbard, who invested in incredibly sketchy cryptocurrencies that he doesn't even have time to discuss here. But go see that. I'll also note that Tulsi managed to acquire her shares in Rumble shortly before Tether's $775 million investment in the platform pushed up the price, which I'm sure is just another one of those funny coincidences. He couldn't possibly have had some prior insider trading knowledge, right? Also, Dan Bongino. Come on, do you have a Dan Bongino sound bit? Assistant FBI Director
it just takes a second to get it.
Dan Bongino was also one of the largest shareholders of Rumble. He had like the #1 podcast on the platform before he accepted the job. Of course, again, we get to Reid Hoffman. And then if I look further, you've got Larry Summers, and you've got Ehud Barak, and you've got Steve Bannon. And all of the other Epstein and all the other friends. There's more in this NFT ethics, right?
Idiots.
The binder's
like
full of women, right?
Now, don't they?
Some of the more salacious details, right, include some admittedly pretty tenuous connections to terrifying Russian organized crime bosses like Semyon Mogilevich, who is, of course, a big fan of crypto. You should read their posts about it.
Of course.
All right. I'll leave you to mull over all of this. All right. In the meantime, here's a subscribe button you can hit if you want to learn about things like the on-chain war between Iran and Israel, way before any of America's journalistic class catches on to the fact that it's even happening. Right? So postum scriptum. I'm just going to throw out a few observations about the Epstein situation that have nothing to do with crypto. Epstein is on tape saying he was Donald Trump's closest friend for most of a decade. Jeffrey Epstein being allowed to kill himself is almost as big a scandal as someone coming in and killing him. While not actually on suicide watch at the time of his death, he'd made at least one suicide attempt in the days before he managed to complete the act. Seems like a lot of Sturm und Drang could have been prevented by one of these suicide-proof smocks they use in America's medieval correctional systems. Epstein and Trump are reported to have fallen out over a real estate deal, despite the fact that Trump either sued or was sued by someone almost twice a week, every week, for 43 years prior to being elected president in 2016. He neither sued nor was sued by Epstein, which is extremely sus. The photos of Trump with the 19-year-old he publicly dated when he was in his 40s, roughly concomitant with his relationship with Epstein, are what I might call questionable. But the videos of Epstein and Trump ogling the very young women, combined with recent statements from Epstein's victims and ex-girlfriends regarding their interactions with Trump back in the day, are what we might call alarming. And I'm not sure what we would call Epstein pleading the fifth when asked if he'd ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18. Why would he do that? Number 5, a surprising number of the people who oversaw the administration of justice in Florida when Epstein was doing all the inappropriate touching have ended up in the Trump administrations, past and present. Pam Bondi failed to do anything about Epstein for her entire 8-year reign as the Attorney General of Florida, the state where a lot of the inappropriate touching occurred, and trafficking. And now she's the Attorney General of the United States. Alex Acosta, who personally arranged for Epstein to get off with a slap on the wrist for soliciting prostitution instead of a decades-long felony sentence for abusing children, was appointed by Trump to be the labor secretary. If your tinfoil hat is tuned to the right frequency, you can almost imagine some kind of quid pro quo here. Oh, and while I'm here, let's not forget the fact that the man who gave Jeffrey Epstein his big break in life was Donald Barr, a.k.a. the father of Bill Barr, the Attorney General of the U.S. in Trump 1.0, or at least the last one. Jeff Sessions was the first one. All right. There's more conclusions, and a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all. Here's a prediction. Trump will drop his $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal a few days before he's set to be deposed and or is about to be forced to comply with the journal's many and varied discovery demands. Go figure. Bookmark it and hit those restack and like buttons at the top if you enjoyed reading it. All right. A few hours after I published this piece, the Wall Street Journal dropped another bigger bomb on Trump. And that was the one about the letter that allegedly Trump had drawn a picture at a birthday card or something. I don't know. And Trump denies it, of course. And then the last thing I wanted to mention about this, and we're going to skip the lightning round. We'll just go to boats. Crypto industry spending more on lobbying than ever. You know, David Moore, this is sludge.com, read sludge.com. I've been a big fan of these guys. They've been following the money. They really chased all the crypto spending during the 24 election. But as it turns out, crypto is spending even more now because they got what they wanted. And they sense that they're on the 10-yard line, eyeing major legislative wins. The crypto industry is on pace to spend a record amount on federal lobbying, according to a Sludge analysis of disclosures covering the first half of this year. This is not an election year. There's no presidential election. There's not even a fucking congressional election. And they're maxing out spending and hitting record levels. Why? Because they're getting something for it. The crypto industry spent more than $18.4 million on federal lobbying in the first half of 2025. Sludge's tally, detailed in a table below, covers all lobbying spending by crypto companies like Coinbase, investment firms like Andreessen Horowitz that lobbied on major crypto bills, and the industry's main trade groups like the Blockchain Association and the Fair Shake PAC, which our friend Golden Monarch has done extensive reporting on. Go follow goldenmonarchdomain.substack.com. The crypto industry is on track to surpass the amount it spent on lobbying in 2024, according to Sludge's analysis. And the full sum is spent to push pro-crypto bills is much higher, such as money spent on grassroots lobbying campaigns to contact members of Congress by the Coinbase-founded advocacy nonprofit Stand With Crypto, which doesn't disclose federal lobbying expenses. Again, how convenient. And this is all being done on pumped speculation with nothing behind it. The growth of these crypto markets, there is zero asset there. Crypto industry lobbyists have been flooding Capitol Hill this month to push through their top legislative priorities, what supportive lawmakers describe as applying light touch regulation to digital assets. Yes, let us do what we want. One bill passed by the House during the GOP's Crypto Week, the Genius Act on stablecoin regulation, was signed into law by President Trump on July 18th. Trump, whose family businesses are launching stablecoin and Bitcoin ventures, said that the bill will make America the undisputed leader in digital assets and took another victory lap for delivering on his pledge to enact the measure. Another bill, which is the Clarity Act, which is a market structure bill for digital assets that would hand oversight of many crypto projects to the industry's preferred regulatory agency, which I believe is the Commodities Exchange. They passed that passed the House last week in a bipartisan vote. Thanks, Democrat douchebags. 294 to 134, because they're getting bought off too, including Elizabeth Warren. Yesterday, key Senate Republicans released a draft of their version of the bill. So the chart breakdown is here. Here's a breakdown of how much crypto interests have spent on DC lobbying so far this year compared with all 24. Coinbase has been the industry's top lobbying spender this year, as it was last year, spending more than $2.1 million in the first half. All right. They retained dozens of lobbyists with K Street firms to lobby Congress, Treasury Department, other government offices. I don't know why that image isn't popping up, but it must be getting blocked. All right. Many crypto firms are on pace to outspend their federal lobbying last year. The exchange Crypto.com has spent more than $2 million this year, already doubling its 2024 total. And the Silicon Valley firm Andreessen Horowitz has spent more than $1.4 million, putting it on pace to surpass last year's outlay. Like this is bad. 3 crypto trade groups that pushed for the Genius Act are now trying to push the Clarity Act over the finish line, and they've spent together over $2.1 million on lobbying. So this is very bad. Again, crypto companies buying off our lawmakers to get them friendly legislation. And it's working. Shout out to David Moore of Sludge. I reached out to David and Donnie to do a one-on-one interview about their work and about their publication. And he said they're arranging some things right now, but to reach out back to him in 6 months. And I would be thrilled for the opportunity to sit down with them. Nonprofit, user-funded accountability journalism newsroom, literally 2 guys. I got a lot of respect for them. Mm-hmm. So that's Sludge. Go subscribe. Read sludge.com. If you're able to and it means, please support the media you want to see. That's what we ask you to do. We are user-funded here. Cash App is an app on your phone. $, Indie News Network is our handle, and you can send us money that way. Also using ko-fi.com/Indie News Network or at paypal.me/Indie News Network. You can also do it at our website at indienewsnow.com. There's keep the media free tab there. And then over at the Substacks over at innnewsletter.com, where we are about to go live for Uncensored Boats Smashing into Other Boats. That's a React show. And at indiemediatoday.com, where this show has been live and all the clips will be published throughout the week. So please subscribe for free to Indie News Now and INN Newsletter and Indie Media Today, and support with a monthly or annual contribution there if you can. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I'll see you next week. I love you all, and have a good one, everyone.
See you in a bit, fam.
Ciao, baby.
We gonna party.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe?